Yo, welcome back to another episode of the Celtics Chronicle with me, your boy, Adam Taylor. And as usual, I'm joined by my homie, compadre, co-host in crime, Mr. Billy Calabrese. What's poppin', Billy?
What's going on, everybody? Philly cheesesteaks, we're coming.
So if you've been following the show for the last two episodes, you know that we did pre-dives into the Sixers and then the Magic. I also went deeper in each newsletter that came out the same days. So I think it was Tuesday, I went deep on the Sixers. Wednesday, I went deep on the Magic. And then we released podcasts on both of them. You can go check out the newsletters in the link in the description. If you want to watch the shows, you can click onto the channel and they'll be there for you. Now we know who the Celtics have got. So the Philadelphia 76ers beat the Orlando Magic last night. So now the Sixers have booked themselves a nice little ass whooping at the hands of the Celtics in the first round. Philly fans in the crowd towards the end of the game chanting, "We want Boston." Every time teams do that, teams get spanked. Now, I said this earlier in the week. I wrote it in the newsletter. I'm posting it on Instagram today. It's time to remind the world that the Celtics are 12-4 against Philly in the postseason during the Tatum and Brown era. 12-4. 3 of those Philly wins came in one series. And that was the last one when it went to Game 7. The Sixers have had terrible luck against Boston over the last damn near 10 years in postseason. They're coming into this series without Embiid, who's just had an appendectomy. They're coming into this series against a Celtics team that got a Jayson Tatum back that's now playing at a damn near all-NBA level. They're going to get whooped. Point blank period. We can do the analysis, and I'm fine being like deep analysis with this and being more fair. But off the bat, 5 games max.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning to. I think it's Celtics in 5. I think you can have a Maxey game where he goes off. There's going to be a Oubre game where he hits 5 or 6 threes like he did tonight. The biggest thing, though, is honestly, I just really like this matchup preferred over the Magic one because I think the Magic had nothing to lose and they're a very dirty team. And I think it could have got scrappy. Whereas the Sixers, yeah, Nick Nurse is annoying, but they're going to play basketball. They're not going to do any of this undercutting stuff that you kind of see. Like even Bane kind of took out Maxey on a fast break, but it was like, what are these guys doing? Are they trying to play basketball? They're trying to win the fight or the game. It is the most common playoff matchup in NBA history, the Celtics and Sixers. So I just like it from the rivalry standpoint, from the historic standpoint. It really is just a much funner matchup. And like I said, get the Magic out of here.
I think for me, one of the things is looking at the way the Sixers play is their guard tandem is the biggest concern for me right now. And I get that what you're saying, they are going to play basketball. Orlando are first in the NBA at getting to the line. They get to the line more than any other team in the league. They're shooting around 81% from the free throw line. That's what they do. They play a physical, nasty, mucky game of basketball. And more power to them. If it's within the confines of the rule set, then fine. Especially when you've got someone like Paolo, you're going to be getting downhill and being physical and drawing fouls because that's just the nature of the way he plays. Philly's a bit different. Philly are going to play a little bit more of an an outside in game, and they have the guards to make that happen, right? I think if you look at Edgecombe, if you look at Maxey, if you look at Grimes, all 3 of them are the type of guards that give the Celtics problems, especially in terms of guarding the perimeter. So what I want to do is talking about matchups and the way Philly are going to play. I want to start with a little kind of game that I do before every playoff series. And I've been doing this for multiple podcasts over the years. I want to just go through position by position and see which member of which team would win if we were making a team out of the 5, right? So it's like, who would you want first, Derrick White or Tyrese Maxey? And then we choose, then we move on to the next position. And then whichever team has the most names in that 5, and then we can do like 6, 7, and 8 if you want. We know who has the better rotation. We know who's winning matchups at each position. And obviously there's going to be cross-matching and everything, but we can't predict that. So I want to start with this. We'll start with the guard positions and then we'll work our way down. So realistically, Maxey is their point guard. Derrick White is Boston's point guard. If we're just going old school position names, right? So if you've got to choose between Derrick White and Tyrese Maxey, who are you taking?
I mean, as much as I love D White, the Buffalo is playoff proven. I think Maxey's a top 10 player in the league. I think he's really special. And I think his speed is something that nobody has an answer for in the whole league.
Okay, so we go Tyrese Maxey at 1. Jaylen Brown, since Tatum has come back, has predominantly been a 2 because it's been like Sam Hauser's been in there a lot. So if we put, and I'm assuming that if you're matching up White with Maxey, or you're matching up Jaylen with Maxey, you're matching White up or Jaylen up with Edgecombe. So then we go Jaylen Brown or VJ Edgecombe. I think we're both agreed it's Jaylen Brown. So it's
Yeah.
1-1 right now. Then we go over to the 3 spot. Now we can say this is kind of where Sam Hauser will most likely be, if not Sam Hauser, Baylor Scheinman. So we can do like a Hauserman. We can do Hauserman versus Paul George, if Paul George is going to be at the 3. If it's not Paul George, then I'm going to have to pull up who it's going to be.
I was going to say Oubre at the 3 and George at the 4.
It's probably going to be Oubre. So, okay, let's do Hauserman, which means either Scheinman or Hauser or Oubre.
I think for one game, Oubre is going to give us trouble just because he tends to do that, but then he kind of drifts off as the series goes on. So I think the consistency is going to be Hauserman, and I actually would just take Hauser straight up over Oubre just because I trust him more as a basketball player. People always rag on Hauser about consistency, but I think he's one of the most consistent players we have. We know we're going to get on defense. We know he's going to stretch the floor, and he's just reliable.
Which takes us down to Tatum or George. Now, old school PG, I think this would have been a bigger discussion. This version of PG, Tatum clears as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, Tatum's the best rebounder at his position. He's just so much more dominated. The way he affects the game. Like there's times you'll watch the Sixers, you don't even know Paul George is out there. Like it's really odd how far he's kind of fallen off. Like it's great he's still playing, but it's not Paul George.
No, it's not the same PG. And look, it's not just Tatum's rebounding, it's his playmaking, it's his ability to spot a pass, it's his processing speed, it's the way he can get downhill, it's his perimeter spacing, his shooting, even though the shooting's not been there since he's come back, but it could come back. So we're going Tatum. So right now, the Sixers win at guard with Maxey. Boston then sweep with Hauserman, or we could just go straight Hauser, Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum. So right now, the Celtics are winning at 3 positions. Then we go to the 5. Adam Bona is their starting 5 pretty much because Embiid's out and he's been out on and off for the majority of the season. So Bona or Neemi. I kind of lean Neemi here. I think Bona's good. I just think Neemi's developed into a better, more well-rounded player. But granted, I haven't watched as much of Adam Bona as what I have of Neemi.
The only thing I worry about is if we get this version of Drummond that we saw like tonight. I thought he was the difference in them beating the Magic. He's even hit some threes, but he was just so dominant on the boards. And it was kind of funny how the announcer said like this is a bigger version of Drummond, basically just calling him fat. But this fatter version of Drummond is really effective because he takes up so much space. And I don't know if you could play him starter minutes, but especially to close a game like last night against the Magic, I think he can give Neemi problems.
I can agree with that. I can agree. We can get to Drummond. If we're going starter, I'm taking Neemi. If we're talking about Drummond, I think that that's a problem because he's just so physical. I also think, though, that there's a way it's much easier to play Drummond off the floor because of the drop defense and because the way the Celtics space out in a 5-out. Drummond's going to have to be at least up to touch or at the level of the screen on pretty much every pick and roll. And you're just going to hunt him. And as dominant as he can be on the glass, you're going to smoke him on pick and roll coverage every single time. Tatum's going to abuse him. Jaylen Brown's going to put him in a blender when getting downhill. I don't know what my dumb was doing. So when you look at it like that, it's like, I can see the benefit of having him offensively, but defensively, his role might be limited just because of how easily the Celtics are going to exploit him.
That's what I'm hoping. That's the key there. But I think if he just gets in a shoving match with Neemi, I know Neemi's made great strides on this, but I think the old bet would it's like when you play your big brother in a hoop game, in the front yard, like how they still have that bully, even if you might be better than him, you could still bully him and push him around a little. I think Drummond could be that big brother to Neemi.
I do wonder, though, whether or not, do you think Gaza would come into this series as the best screener? Or do you think that Drummond wins that battle now?
I mean, it was already a toss-up, but I can't believe how much I've really liked watching Drummond play, like especially during the stretch Philly's had to even get in this position. I'm shocked because I've never been a Drummond guy. I always thought he was overrated. I know he's like one of the best rebounders in NBA history. It just boggles the mind, like 50 years from now, some kid's going to open up a textbook with NBA stats and be like, this Drummond guy was like Wilt. It's like, no, he really wasn't, but whatever.
I do think that his rebounding could give the Celtics issues, but Boston have done a really good job at boarding up and taking those long rebounds away. I think Drummond's going to be more of a deep interior rebounder. But again, I just think that you can really abuse him on the defensive end. And that's not saying he's a bad defender. Like, as a drop coverage guy, if you funnel guys towards him, he's a problem. But if you drag him out to guard up near the perimeter, it's quite easy to exploit. And sometimes that can end up impacting the amount of minutes he'll get because you don't want to consistently have a target out there. Whereas Adam Bona is a little bit more mobile, can operate a little bit easier up on the perimeter. You can hide him. You can hide Bona in like the weak side corner and get him to rotate over. He's a quality shot blocker. I do think that their big man rotation is good, but I still think the Celtics win that matchup battle just because if Neemi's having a rough game and it's not working for him, or if this series doesn't wind up being a Neemi series, you have two floor spacing fives that you can rotate in with Nikola Vucevic and Luka Garza. And Vucevic is going to give you some interior passing that you can play out of the post, you can play out of the elbows. Garza's going to give you that screening. After all, the Celtics finished the season as the league leaders in screen assists and screen assist points. So, like, they're going to find ways of creating on the perimeter. And if this isn't a game for Neemi because his physicality and explosiveness near the rim, especially as a roll man and a dunker spot guy, is being taken away by Drummond and Bona, going into a 5-out spacing offense will probably be the most logical response to that throughout however many games this series runs for.
Yeah, it feels like a Tatum at the 5 series or even a Vucevic series, because I think he would have a lot of success against Drummond. I think those two would be a very favorable matchup for us, make him work on defense. But the other one I really want to do with this is coaches. How do we feel about the coaching matchup?
I'm a Nick Nurse fan. I've said this on multiple podcasts again. Like, he's kind of a basketball legend in my city. He used to coach my city's pro team for a long time, back in the 90s, mid to late 90s. That team doesn't even exist anymore. Like, it folded not long after Nick Nurse left. Nick Nurse coached throughout England. I like him a lot. I think Mazzulla at this point is proving himself to be on par, if not better. Now, to be honest, I have Mazzulla better than Nick Nurse just because he's more modern. He's kind of like, and I hate using soccer references because I'm not a soccer guy, but he reminds me kind of like what people here talk about prime Jose Mourinho was, in terms of just the way he builds us against them mentality. Now, Mourinho was problematic, never stayed anywhere longer than 3 years. Joe's been obviously already passing that mark, but I just think in the way that he creates like a siege mentality, it's us versus them, it's us against the world. It's, we're going to compete with everybody and match their physicality, punch for punch, blow for blow. I think he's just a really well-rounded coach, from a player coach to a development coach to an X's and O's coach. Everything's kind of come together for Mazzulla. And at this point, like, could you make an argument he's a top 5 coach in the NBA?
Yeah, and I think he actually has a really good shot of winning Coach of the Year. Like, the early votes are in. He's in the lead so far, but long way to go.
So that kind of brings me to the point where I'm like, and the reason I do this exercise, and we could go down the bench as well if you want to go Jabari Walker, Justin Edwards, if you want to go down there, Quentin Grimes. Is Quentin Grimes somebody that scares you more than a Peyton Pritchard, right? Like, if you had to put those two together and we're picking teams and both of those guys are available, who do you pick first?
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. Like, Pritchard blows away pretty much any bench player in the league at this point. And he's essentially a starter.
And this is where I'm at. Like, so the Celtics win at 4 positions on the starting 5. They win at the 6-man position. Then you could probably argue they win one of the next 2 as well, right? And then if you want to just do pure talent, if you want to rank in talent, it's like, well, Tatum and Brown are 1 and 2. Then you could argue that Maxey comes in at 3. And then, we can start slotting down. But Boston have the best 2 players in this series. They probably have 3 of the best 5 players in this series if you go Tatum, Brown, and White. And if you're coming into the series with the clear-cut best player, the clear-cut second best player, and then another guy that's within that top 5 of the combined talent pool, you should be walking out of this series quite comfortably. That's just the cold, hard fact. You'd have to really shit the bed.
Yeah, and the only way I can kind of see that is kind of Nick Nurse's strength. He loves these rat defenses. And if Joe is going to be like set in like how he's playing and who he's playing, it is going to be kind of an adjustment series because I don't think Nurse is going to stay stagnant. He's going to try a bunch of different shit. And some of it might actually work, which I think is actually going to make us better in the long run because I don't think the rest of the coaches in the Eastern Conference are as good as Nick Nurse. So like going from a Nick Nurse series to a Mike Brown series or even Bickerstaff, like who has had a great season, don't get me wrong, but like I don't have those guys as strong as Nick Nurse.
Nick Nurse is incredible, and again, I'll say it again, I'm a big fan. I really do like the way Nick Nurse coaches. What I will say is, there's been a lot of talk throughout Mazzulla's tenure of his one weakness being adjustments, and I've
Rigid,
said this before, and I'm like, okay, in-game adjustments has definitely been an area for improvement, and I think he has improved over the years. But game-to-game adjustments have never been a problem for Joe Mazzulla, and
totally
game-to-game adjustments, he generally wins that battle. So the battle for me is like, there's going to be like a 2-part battle, right? We've got the game-to-game adjustment where you kind of got to try and outfox Nick Nurse coming into each game. Then you've got the in-game battle, and it's going to be interesting to see who blinks first in both. I think that it's going to be a fascinating coaching matchup. But again, when you come into the series with 3 of the best 5 players, you realistically should be walking away in 5 games.
Yeah, I think 5 games. If it goes to 6, something really went wrong. And 7, we're on like DEFCON 5 because then we just really weren't ready for this series, and that would show some like either overconfidence or just lack of preparation. But I honestly really wanted this matchup because of how it's going to prepare us for the next series. I want like Paul George guarding Tatum. I want Oubre and VJ. Like I was really impressed with VJ's defense. He was guarding Banchero tonight and giving him problems, making him turn the ball over. Like I want to see like guys like that because when we get to the next round, when it's Bridges and it's Hart and it's just these annoying freaking Knicks, I want Tatum to be like ready for that. And I think these wings are a great, like, kind of like scrimmage version of that team.
I think that's fair. I think that's it's a great tune-up series is what you're basically saying. Like it's the series that gets you ready and polished for when you go into a matchup against the Knicks. And look, the Celtics have every reason to want to get to that second round and want to win that second round. And, you know, the turmoil it would put the Knicks roster into if they lose in 5 or 6. Even if they lose in 7, right? If the Knicks don't make it to the conference finals, there's going to be a lot of questions asked of that rotation. And that would make Celtics fans everywhere very happy. So I'm all with you as the tune-up game. I do kind of wonder how the offense is going to look. Like, we know the Celtics are going to get up around 40 to 45 threes a night. The rest of it is like, where do you generate? And the reason I'm asking, I've got the numbers here. The Sixers are, and I spoke about this on the last episode, so I'll keep this brief. The Sixers are the Sixers bait you basically into taking threes.
Yep.
They're 20th in the NBA for the amount of threes they allow teams to take, but they're 11th in the NBA for how well they defend those threes. So teams are only shooting 35.6% from deep when facing Philly. And they also do a really good job of defending the mid-range. So if you beat them on a closeout, they're still going to find a way to make life tough in the middle of the floor. So that's like Boston's 2 bread and butter areas this season. Like, they've kind of gone away from like layups and threes, that Morey ball, into like mid 2s and perimeter shots. And Philly do a really good job of taking those away. So I am interested to see whether we lean more into short roll offense, whether they lean more into like post creation, how you try and combat Philly's defense to begin with to force Nick Nurse into his first change of the series. Because the one thing that Philly have is a lot of athleticism on the wings, and they have a lot of speed at the guard position. And I think when you have athleticism and explosiveness coming downhill, and then you have 2 guards that can penetrate off the dribble, score across all 3 areas, you're in a position where your defense is being stretched vertically and laterally at the same time. And that can make life quite tough.
Yeah, because I think it's kind of like a tale of 2 teams. With Embiid out, the Sixers like to play fast, and we are one of the slowest paced, if not the slowest paced team in the league. So it's going to be kind of a battle of whose style is going to win out. If we can control the tempo and keep it at our pace, I don't see a problem. But if we can do a track meet with these guys, they got the athletes to make it really annoying.
And if you're the Celtics and you're playing on a long playoff run, the last thing you want to do is like burn out those batteries in that first round. You need to find like a middle ground. And look, playoff basketball generally slows down a little bit anyway. It becomes more methodical. You find ways of forcing half-court offenses. You find ways of forcing teams to get bogged down. The whole point is to try and figure out how to take away the transition opportunities where possible. But again, when you've got so many athletes, you're running more. Like I've seen Nick Nurse kind of leaning into the explosiveness a little bit on the wing and getting a lot. I think there's going to be a series where back cuts are a big issue and figuring out how to stop them. How to, like, you don't want to be heavily top blocking on pick and rolls because you're just going to get smoked. And Brown's one weakness on defense for a long time has just been the ability to cut behind him. So that's going to be interesting as well. He has kind of eradicated that this season, to be fair. What I will say is I still think the Celtics have enough about them. I think the 5-out offense is just going to give New York, here's me looking ahead, going to give Philly absolute fits. And that's going to be the hardest thing for them to adjust to, because for all the explosiveness, athleticism, and speed they have, they do not have defenders that can consistently survive on switches.
And that's going to be the key for them, because their only hope of running on us is forcing turnovers. And on those switches, I just don't see the matchups there for them to be able to force those turnovers. Unless, like I said, Nick Nurse is the king of rat defense. If he has a game plan to trap Jaylen Brown and, get him into some of his old habits, if Jaylen has like a 5-6 turnover a game series, there could be a problem.
Do you think we see a box and one?
Oh, yeah. There's no way we don't. Dude, he's going to throw everything in the book.
Or triangle and two. That's what I'm going to be looking for. Triangle and two zones. Are they running triangle and two? Because that's when I know Nick Nurse is in his bag. Do you know what I mean? We throws out a box and one, a triangle and two. Maybe throw some pack line in there. The amount of defensive cover, and the Celtics have been running pack line for most of Missoula's tenure. The amount of coverages that I think Nurse is just going to keep throwing out there till he finds one that sticks. It's kind of like what Spoelstra did in the earlier years of this Celtics formation, right? Where he'd just throw out multiple zones. He was doing like inverted 2-3s, putting like two bigs at the top with his three smalls at the bottom, just to like really mess up what the Celtics did. That he ran that inverted 2-3 zone, or it was an inverted 3-2. He ran that during the bubble, running the bubble, and like it just gave the Celtics absolute fits. Now, obviously, Boston's a better team now. You saw what happened when Miami tried to run zone a few weeks back. The Celtics just cut through that like a knife through butter. But again, if you start throwing out these quirky, unconventional defensive coverages, sooner or later, you're going to land on one that's slightly effective. And then it's how long does it take to adjust to that? That's always the question. Is it one possession, 10, 15? And the longer that kind of figuring out process goes, the more difficult it becomes to stay in that singular game.
100%. I do think that we should throw out the season series with these teams, because pretty much all of these games were with a completely different roster. I mean, that first game of the season, God, it's unbelievable the guys we had and what the team is now from there.
I mean, you got to remember the first game, the Celtics started the season 0-3.
Yeah, exactly.
And they picked it up after game 10, and then things really started to fall into place and players developed. And I've been watching the Shy lately. Have you ever watched the Shy?
What's the Shy?
Or the Chai, the CHI. It's like a TV show. It reminds me kind of like The Wire in a few ways. It's cool. On Disney, right? But in one of the episodes, there's a guy in there. His name's Quentin, and he does a quote where it's like, and it's somebody else's quote, but it's fresh on my mind because I saw it yesterday. And he was like, a man never steps into the same river because he's not the same man and it's not the same river.
Facts.
And, even if you're facing the same Celtics team as at the start of the season, which predominantly you are, there's no Josh Minor, there's no Anthony Simons, you have a Nikola Vucevic, but predominantly you are facing the same team, but it's not the same team and it's not the same game, because this team has evolved so much from opening night to now. So many guys have took multiple developmental steps. And again, you might be playing the same team, but a man never steps into the same river twice. And I think that's a really apt analogy just because of the development that we've seen this year.
Yeah. And like I said, they ain't never seen Jayson Tatum. So that's the other thing. Like, that's the guy who, he's the boogeyman for the Sixers. So with him back, oh man, it's going to be great.
With that, I'm going to let everybody enjoy the rest of their day. There will be a newsletter coming out at some point today where I dive deeper into some of these matchups as best as I can. You can subscribe by hitting the link below. Make sure you show some love to the channel. We're slowly growing. We're slowly doing our thing. And of course, Billy is our resident movie expert. He's over on Letterboxd doing his thing there. So if you're a movie buff just like Billy, you can find him at
CBO041. We're at over 100 movies already this year. It's only April. The goal is 365. Let's get there.
Until then, everybody enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.